Hi, I'm State Representative Doyle Heffley, and welcome to the Legislative Report. Today we're here in Carbon County in Jeansville, which is just right outside of Tresco, PA. And we're here to talk a little bit about some of the opportunities we have in coal country. Obviously, Carbon County and the entire northeastern part of Pennsylvania is rich with anthracite coal, coal that was used to fuel the Industrial Revolution, was used to win 2 world wars, and is still being mined today, as you can see behind me. Today, the site that we're at here in Jeansville is a unique site in that there's actually an active mine fire on this site. We visited this site several times in the past, and with the help of our Congress delegation, our State Senator John Udicek, this is actually DEP is right now extinguishing the fire that is actually burning on this site below our feet. So I'm here today with the project manager, Bert Oculto, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about the operation that you see going on behind us. And I believe what is directly over our shoulders behind us is the active mining operation, where they're actually mining the coal, extinguishing that coal, and then that coal is being sold to market.
Yes, that's what we're doing.
Yeah. And now, and over to our left-hand shoulder, what we're standing on here is a waste coal pile, or some people refer to it as a column bank, or just waste coal. And now, when this area had actually been deep mined years ago, and there's actually a mine shaft in there, and what they would do is then they would just pile the waste coal on piles, and there's a lot of carbon left in these piles as well.
Yes.
And that part of this active mine fire is actually burning in here. And one of the grave concerns that we have is there's a town close by is wanting to extinguish this fire. So if you could just talk to us a little bit about what we see the equipment doing behind us, and how the plan is to put this fire out.
Yes. Well, I'm with Hazelton Shaft Corporation, anthracite carbon, and we bid on this project to put the mine fire out through DEP. That side over there is the active mine. That's where we're digging out the coal right now. We're actually putting out the mine fire ourselves on that side to extinguish it before we place it, so we can get down to the coal. That has nothing to do with the fire job that we're working on now. On this side of us over here is the DEP mine fire job. This, we're excavating down. We're gonna be putting in a trench through here to stop the mine fire from coming underneath. We're gonna go down as deep as we have to extinguish it. All the hot material we are quenching with water and foam under the supervision of DEP, and we're taking it and placing it. At the same time, we are filling in some of the hazardous voids that were left here by the strip mining earlier. And our excavation is here, bringing it up, placing it. That's why we have the water running now. We're digging down, trying to get down as deep as we could right now.
One of the things that I thought was fascinating, as we talked a little bit earlier about the operation, is the amount of water that's being used. You can see right over here where as the material's coming out, it is then being hosed down and cooled down with water. And once that material is then cooled, you're using it to backfill other areas to level the land out.
Yes.
Now, where are we getting the water from? Because this is massive amounts of water that are being used here.
Yes. Well, there's 2 different sources. One is the mine pool on Hazelton Shaft site that we're using on our side over there when possible. When the mine pool is high enough that we could extract the water from, we're using that to quench it out. On this side over here, on the DEP fire site job, we are using either the mine pool or the township water. Okay,
and I think for the viewers that are watching, you can see the steam rising off of the area that's actually being extinguished. And when you come here, you can actually smell the burning coal in the atmosphere, and it's one of the things that the community was worried about. And DEP is actively continuing to monitor the air quality in the area. And I think it's important to realize that the cost of this job to DEP is $9 million to extinguish this mine fire, and part of it is burning in the old mine shaft, and the other part of this is actually burning in the waste coal piles.
Right.
And we have these waste coal piles. We have millions of tons of waste coal spread out throughout northeastern PA and western PA, anytime where these mine operations were going years ago. And a little bit later, we're going to actually be visiting a power plant that actually can burn this coal, this carbon here, and create electricity, and at the same time clean up this hazard. One of the things that's concerning to a lot of folks is the acid mine, or the polluted water that runs off of piles like this and back into our watershed. So it is necessary to clean this up. But the other hazard the column banks and the coal piles like this, waste coal, is the fire. A large portion of this fire is actually burning in the waste pile here. And as you can see, I know you showed me earlier the pipes that you have, and those are monitoring pipes where they drill down and they actually have temperature gauges. If you could just talk a little bit about how that process works.
Yes, well, we drilled the monitoring wells, and we put down the gauges down to read the temperature to make sure that it's under control and not spreading. This way we're watching the heat and watching the different areas where we're placing the material. This way DEP is recording everything and just keeping it under control in that respect. And also, the one problem that was here originally was the odor was terrible.
Yeah.
Very bad odor from the people, and the safety hazard alone from just the gases burning off and whatnot. So that's why it's critical that this fire be put out.
Yeah.
Before it spreads.
Yeah, and it's important. I know we had several meetings with the town, and people are concerned, as rightfully they are, and working with DEP. And I'm really happy to see. I think my initial tour was last year. We came up here and visited. You could actually see in the waste coal piles where holes had burned up, and you could actually feel the heat coming out of the ground. So the fact that the operation, the engineering that goes into this operation, and how drilling these wells in certain areas to monitor the temperature to make sure that the fire isn't spreading, to make sure we're protecting the town and getting this fire put out. And I think it's really important that people understand the safety aspects of why these fires need to be put out, but also in the potential for cleaning up these piles and renewing our environment and getting rid of these hazards. And also, I think the other thing is to make people aware of, a lot of people like to ride four-wheelers and have fun on these piles. I mean, it's a great place to have fun. But if they are coming up and they are participating in the ATV activities or just hanging out in this type of environment, not to burn fires. I mean, a lot of these coal fires can start with somebody just coming up with a campfire or burning some material here or burning trash or anything like that. So it's very important because there's so much carbon in these waste coal piles.
Definitely, yes. And some mornings you could come out here and you could actually see the flames coming out of the ground 3-4 feet high. You could see the odor and the gases coming right up. They're burning. And like you said, it is good to take care of these pits that are here because they are hazards. And that's the one concern. People don't walk into them or drive their quads in them or something, even though they shouldn't be here. That's a hazard. So it's good that they're taking care of this.
And definitely want to make sure that we're keeping the public safe from things like this. There's hundreds of active mine fires burning throughout the state of Pennsylvania. Obviously, probably the most famous one is the situation that happened in Centralia, yes, where actually that mine was closer to the surface. People had gases in their basements, and years ago the federal government came up and bought that whole town out. And we certainly don't want to see any of those situations reoccur. And the technology that we're applying today to extinguish this and the investment that's being made here, $9 million is a huge investment, but it needs to be done. And that's why we need to continue to look for alternatives to how do we clean up these waste coal piles, and how do we continue with the mining operation. Like if Hazelton Shaft stopped mining this, DEP would then be charged with having to put this fire out. So I think it's important to realize that there are benefits to mining in this type of environment, and as long as they can still make a profit on it, and they're actually helping the environment and put that out. I mean, coal is going to be around forever. Anthracite coal is some of the best, cleanest, and hottest burning coal. It's very popular and being used heavily still to today in the steel production, and it's being shipped all over the world and also used here locally. So it's something that's going to be with us, and we need to make sure that we're looking at our heritage and moving forward, making sure that we're using all the technologies that we have in place to keep our environment clean.
That's very good. It's a good way to put it. It's nice that people are taking consideration in doing this before it does get worse and does get out of hand. Like what you said, you don't want another Centralia. And right over there behind us is a town that's just a couple hundred feet away.
And that's why it's so important. And I commend the DEP for moving quickly. I mean, to see, since I've been here for our last visit, to see the progress that has been made up here. I mean, and the commitment to wanting to get this fire extinguished and put out, I think is key. I want to commend you and your operation here to do that. And just looking back, as anybody can see, that if the viewers can notice the orange areas, those are the areas where the mine fire had been burning, and the stone actually turns orange from the heat, and applying that water and the foam to try and get that material cooled down and spread out. So, I mean, if you look at just take an overall shot of the mountains of material that are here, you see the size and the magnitude of this cleanup here. And this is just one site in PA, but the commitment that we're making to the community here, I think it's really important. So, well, Bert, I really thank you for your time today. I thank you for allowing us to come onto your site here, taking a tour, and showing us what's going on and keeping us updated, and for the good work that you're doing.
Thank you,
sir.
Yes, appreciate you coming here.
All right, we're going to take a short break now. When we come back, we're going to actually visit a power generation facility that's actually burning this waste coal. We'll show you some of the opportunities we have to clean up our environment and protect things and prevent things like this from happening in the future.
Did you know that the chamber of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives contains a painting depicting the 24 hours of the day? Located in the center of the ceiling, the mural titled The Hours was created by artist Edwin Austin Abbey. This wonderful masterpiece charts the setting of the sun, moon, and the many stars that grace the heavens. 24 maidens, who each represent an hour of the day, begin each day in light and gladness and ends in solemn drapery carried on still shoulders. Now you know.
Did you know that the state capitol is not only the epicenter of the Commonwealth's governing bodies, but was once home to 390 preserved Civil War flags? During the war, it was customary for each state to furnish their regiments in battle with flags representing their contribution to the Union Army. After the war, Pennsylvania's military department was responsible for collecting the flags, and in 1872, they were reverently housed in the Capitol. Following the completion of construction on the new Capitol building in 1914, the Civil War flags were moved to the Capitol Rotunda. They were kept untouched in custom-made flag cases until 1982, when the Capitol Preservation Committee initiated its Save the Flags project. Throughout the years, dust and long-term vertical display of the flags had begun to devastate the brittle silk fabric and painted designs. The flags were removed by local textile conservators and were repaired and preserved in storage units that protect the relics from light, dust, and excessive handling. Now you know.
Welcome back to the Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Doyle Heffley. Earlier in the episode, you had seen us at a currently active mine where there's actually a mine fire burning and extinguishing that process. We're here today at the Panther Creek project, the waste coal power plant here in Nesquehoning, and we're going to be talking with Matt Cochran, who is the asset manager for Panther Creek, a little bit about waste coal, the generating process and what it is involved in, and how this process here will help to avoid future fires and abandoned waste coal piles, and how we can actually take that waste coal, use it to create electricity to generate our air conditioners on a hot day like today, but also at the same time the benefits to the environment and cleaning up the acid mine drainage and, that comes off of those coal piles.
Okay, we obviously consume waste coal here at this facility. We consume hundreds of thousands of tons per year, and we also utilize acid mine drainage water from the local mine pool here, and we process it and then utilize it in our processes, use it for our cooling tower, and then return it back to the environment in a cleaner state than how we received it.
So, I mean, this is a huge benefit. And if we look at all the different things we do to clean up the environment, and when people hear the word waste coal or power plants, they don't necessarily assume that to be green. But if you look at the technology that's employed here and look at the issues that are caused by these abandoned mine or waste coal piles throughout Pennsylvania, I mean, millions of tons of this laying around. And the fact that your company has devised a way to take that waste coal, burn it, create electricity, also clean up some of the acid mine water, and then restoring that property where that waste coal was on back to be areas of grassland or forest again. I think it's a win-win. So what we want to do is we're going to go inside of the plant behind us, talk a little bit about the process of what all you do, and how this is beneficial not only to the consumers who are purchasing electricity, but also to the environment here in Carbon County and throughout the state of Pennsylvania.
Absolutely.
And here we are high atop the Panther Creek power generation facility here in Nesquehoning. And back here with Matt, and we're going to talk to you a little bit. Obviously, earlier we talked about the waste coal, and we stood on top of some of the waste coal piles in another part of the county. And now, as you look behind us, you'll see the piles that are being trucked in, and that material is being spread out and dried. Matt, if you could just explain that process a little bit to us.
Certainly. Behind us, as you can see, we do have the waste coal piles. We receive the trucks daily. More often when we're operating more, we'll receive more trucks. We receive up to 100 trucks a day. Okay. Each truck is about 20 tons apiece. We drop off the fuel. The fuel is then processed. It's dried using our rolling stock or our
and by fuel, you're referring to
the waste coal.
To the waste coal. So I mean, and I think that's the thing to really point out is that waste coal, it's not waste coal, it's fuel for a generating facility.
Absolutely, yeah. So essentially, as it's out there in the mined areas, it's waste coal. It's causing pollution issues with not only acid mine drainage, but also fugitive dust and various others. But then when it's trucked here, we process it, turn it into a fuel, and then screen it out, crush it down so it can go into the boiler, and then we consume it in the boiler. The boiler generates steam, obviously, and then we can pass that steam through a steam turbine, which then creates electricity using the generator.
So the product is brought in, dried out, it's then screened to get the bigger, larger pieces out of it, crushed down, and it comes up this long tube here. I would imagine there's a conveyor belt in that tube.
That's right.
And then that feeds in there, and that's the fuel that you use to generate the steam.
Yes.
And now also behind us, so on the other side, what you have is beneficial ash, and that is the end product. We're going to actually be talking a little bit more in this segment about the process, but just to point out that end product is then called beneficial ash, which we're taking the waste coal, turning it into that beneficial ash, which is then taken back and used in reclamation sites to restore that land.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what as beneficial ash, what is so beneficial about it that it's being used in that process? What is in that ash that's helping the environment?
In our process of consuming the waste coal, we inject limestone in that, and due to the temperatures inside the boilers, it basically, when it generates the ash, it creates the ash in the current state that you can see it over there. It's high in alkalinity, which has a higher pH. So when it's spread over in the reclamation areas across Pennsylvania, when the water trickles through the ash, it essentially nullifies the low pH that is caused by the waste coal that's on the ground.
So it's cleaning up. It's a way to clean up the acid mine drainage. So, once again, talking about looking at the waste coal. Water runs on that waste coal piles as they are right now throughout Pennsylvania. The water runs off that acid mine. Here you can take it, turn it into fuel. We generate electricity, so we can power our air conditioners in the summer, or our heaters in the winter, and everything else that we use, our iPhones or anything else we want to plug in. And at the end of the day, the product that you're putting out is beneficial ash. So we're turning what was waste into something that's going to actually improve, and taking something that creates hazardous mine water, acid mine drainage, and cleaning that up. And I just really think that's one of the reasons why I've been supportive of tax credits for this industry, because we need to keep this industry going, and in looking across the state and the thousands and millions of tons of waste coal that we have, and how we can use that beneficially.
Yeah, it's a tough process of trying to process the waste coal, bring it into the power plant and generate electricity. And it's a very tough process of trying to get the ash out of our systems onto a truck and back out to these locations across Pennsylvania. But the process is done. We bear the cost of almost a large portion of that cost. The tax credit has been a huge advantage for us. Power prices at this time are low, but we intend to be here to continue the work. And we'll continue the job of reclaiming the land, cleaning up the acid mine drainage water, and we consume about 1 million gallons of acid mine drainage water per year. And we also send back about 400 to 450,000 tons of beneficial use for reclamation in the land. And that's done mostly at full capacity when we're running around the clock. And we've been doing this for almost 21 years. So as you can imagine, that volume of consumed and processed acid mine drainage water is a substantial number. Yeah. And also the substantial amount of beneficial use ash has reclaimed large portions of Pennsylvania.
And Olympus obviously is the company that owns Panther Creek. Yes. And owns a few other some other generating facilities like this, and I know they're into generating. But I think what the benefit of what this technology and what this plant brings to the benefit, if you want to call it, say, green energy, but because you're cleaning up the environment and restoring the environment at the same time, taking that acid mine water out and cleaning it up, I think it's so critical that if we look at investments like tax credits, if we're going to be investing those public funds into plants like this versus other forms of alternative energy which are all produced overseas and do nothing to clean up the environment that we have here in Pennsylvania. I think that's why it's a win-win for the community, for the taxpayer, but also the consumer at the end of the day. The other thing that we can talk about is jobs. Approximately how many jobs and ancillary jobs has Panther Creek, has this plant here brought in to the community?
Locally, this plant can be fully staffed at 47 people.
Okay.
That is only locally staffed people that are physically working on this location. Like I said earlier, we have over 100 trucks per day that can come in here. That's probably around 15 truck drivers. We also have various companies that we utilize, our vendors that bring in the limestone, that bring in the chemicals we need to process the water. So there's it's a substantial amount. I don't know the exact number of people, but it's substantial.
And that's the economic benefit. Obviously, there's an environmental benefit to the operation that you do here, but there's also an economic benefit because these are good paying jobs. These are trucking jobs. These are heavy equipment operators. I would imagine you probably have the different trades that come in to help service the plant from time to time.
Absolutely.
So I mean, these are all good paying, quality of life jobs that are providing benefits to employees and family sustaining wages. So I thank you and Olympus for investing here, and I want to partner with the state to continue this operation to benefit our community. And here we are in the turbine bay at Panther Creek, and this is actually where the rubber meets the road. Everything we talked about earlier with the waste coal and turning it into fuel and using it here. This is where the steam and everything comes down. And Matt, if you could explain what we have behind us and how we're generating electricity.
Absolutely. So the energy that we remove from the waste coal in the combustion process inside our boilers is utilized where it heats up the water inside the boiler. That water becomes steam. We superheat that steam. It becomes very high energy steam. It's then injected into the turbine behind us here. Okay. That turbine spins, which is coupled to a generator. That generator spins, and we generate the electricity that's used on the grid.
And now, how much electricity can you generate? I mean, I know it's megawatts per hour. How does that terminology work, and how much electricity can you generate through that process?
So on a daily basis, we can generate around 1,900 to 1,950 megawatts per day. Okay. That comes out to be about 700,000 megawatts per year. The equation is basically 1,000 multiplied by 700,000 is that many kilowatts, right? Okay. So that takes about 650,000 tons of waste coal to make that happen. Okay. And then we generate about 400 to 450,000 tons of ash that we use in reclamation.
Matt, with the process that you're doing here and the electricity that you're generating, how many homes would that service on an annual basis?
It varies, but around 80,000 homes.
I tell you, it's such a tremendous asset that we have here with this plant, creating the jobs that we have, but also clean up the environment and everything else that we're doing as a byproduct of what you're doing here. So it's I want to encourage this plant to continue to run. Now, actually, we're shut down right now because of the low cost of electricity. If you could maybe talk a little bit about that.
Sure, we're seeing depressed natural gas prices. A lot of it is because the natural gas is very cheap now. The entire power industry is hurting, not just us. Those prices are low enough to where it's not efficient enough for us financially to be able to stay online. It's forced us to operate differently, to operate more in a peaking load, but we are always available to be be ready when called upon, or when we see that power prices are high enough for us to be able to generate electricity at a profit.
And that's one of the things with the proposal that we have in the House, and some of the stuff that we put in actually as part of this year's budget was to provide tax credits for the industry. And that is because historically these are very low prices that we're seeing for electricity. So in order for you to do this process and have the benefit to the environment that you see, and also at the same time economically be feasible, those tax credits were put in place to keep plants like this and other plants throughout our state that provide these benefits to stay in operation. Right now, we've seen a large increase in the amount of natural gas, which is a good thing for the consumer. The prices are down. A lot of the old coal-powered plants or nuclear plants are being almost put out by the natural gas producing electricity, which is an industry shift. But why these jobs and why this particular plant and what you do here is so important is because not only are you producing electricity, but the environmental benefit, and that's why I felt it's very important that we work on a program to keep plants like this here in operation.
Yes. And that the tax credit and all that work that has gone into that and making sure that happened for these plants has been almost unmeasurable at this point. I mean, it's in not only this year, but the years going forward, it's going to be a massive impact for us. It helps us go out and get fuels that might be further away that we couldn't have reached before due to the cost of shipping. Yeah. That alone will increase the number of jobs further out, beyond further counties and further districts. And it's also allowing us to be able to operate at a cheaper cost in the near future. Yeah. And then we'll be able to run at a lower cost, therefore we'll be able to be on the grid and consume more waste coal, provide beneficial
Now, we had
ash
talked a little bit earlier, I think you're off camera, we had talked about the amount of waste coal, the tonnage, and millions of tons that are out there. Could you give us an estimate of what's just in our area here and what you have access to?
Sure. Within probably a 15-mile radius of this plant, there's about 40 million tons, give or take a few million tons of waste
40
coal
million
out there.
tons of waste coal that as the rain falls on it can create the acid mine runoff. And now, how many years would a plant like this have to run in order to
60 years.
60 years, yeah, to burn up just that fuel. And that's fuel that we have that's already been mined. It's on top of the ground. It's easy to access it. It's just a process that you have here in place to get it, so we can avoid situations like we have right now in Jeansville, where we have a mine fire that's costing the DEP $9 million to extinguish. So I think that's an important, when you look at the tax credits at $7.5 million this year, but yet, in that one mine fire incident that we have to, obviously it's a public safety, we want to make sure we get that cleaned up, is $9 million. So the cost benefit to the state, plus the jobs that are created for this type of operation are really important.
It's a massive discount for the
Well, Matt,
state.
I thank you. I think we're about ready to wrap up our segment here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this edition of Legislative Report. Once again, I'm State Representative Doyle Heffley. If you need any information or need help with any kind of state-related issue, there will be some numbers that will flash across the screen, and my office staff will be happy to help you out. Thank you.